To maintain the orderly and harmonious mechanism of the art form is goodness. The entire material world is the artistic expression form of the recessive truth, goodness, and beauty, while the mechanism that safeguards these art forms to be orderly and harmonious is goodness. Without goodness, everything would be unordered, inordinate, ugly, unharmonious, and unbearable. The greatest creator designs the order of the universe in accordance with the law of supreme goodness. If we observe the world around us carefully, it is not difficult to find the orderliness and concordance of the big world. Voluminous celestial bodies run harmoniously without hindering others. Atmosphere and atmospheric composition of the different gases coexist together and form a harmonious whole. Oceans, rivers, lakes, and streams locate in their own position and coexist harmoniously on the earth. Mountains, valleys, plains, and hills and harmoniously constitute a beautiful landscape painting. The underground microorganisms, the insects and animals on the ground, fish in rivers and lakes and birds flying in the sky all coexist harmoniously in a total vertical crossing living space for life, which is a masterpiece of the great goodness, is the ideal and state of the goodness. For the individual of human members, the desire and behavior of trying to keep the harmonious mechanism of the big world and maintain the orderliness and concordance between oneself with the surrounding life and the ecological environment where life depends on our goodness. Specifically speaking, all the mentality that is full of the reverence to the greatest creator, the reverence for life, and the reverence to nature is goodness. All the conducts that try to safeguard the greatest creator, to maintain order, to love life and protect nature are goodness. To examine human, Chinese ethic people as an example, according to the law of goodness, order, and harmony, we can find some unkindness in our desires and behaviors. Looking back the history, we will find those emperors who did not awe God or heaven were unkind, and there would be the frequent disasters, social unrest, the rampant robbers, the ubiquitous complaints, and the unable surviving masses when those emperors governed kingdoms. On the contrary, if emperors awed God and heaven, there would be good weather, all things prosperous, honesty prevailing throughout society, people living happily, social harmony and peace. This indicates that good pratyaya grows good fruit, and bad pratyaya results in evil consequence. Comparing the leaders of the two countries, China and the United States, we find a phenomenon of a good and evil retribution. U.S. presidents, in the oath of office, always place himself humbly under the greatest creator, and the result is that the U.S. economy develops rapidly with social prosperity, the people affluence, and everyone feeling happy. In view of China, the previous leaders, in their minds, arrogantly placed themselves in the position of being a savior and never believed in the greatest creator, and the result is the suppression of human nature, the suppressed human rights, freedom giving way to power, terror haunting around. In view of the recent facts, the suppression on the personages of democracy and freedom, the rights deprivation on the religion believers, the flagrant violations on the national people's property, the indifference and control on the petitioners highlighted non-goodness of the Chinese leaders and the unkindness of the government conduct. Economic development and material wealth cannot conceal the essence of unkindness. There are always some people who think it is big goodness to solve the subsistence problem. In fact, the problem of food belongs to the property of animals, and there are the elements of free speaking and free pouring in the property human. If people have lost the right of freely expression their ideals, beliefs, thoughts, lost the right to move freely, and then the whole implication of goodness is just regarded as the food problem, then what is the difference between human beings with the animal in a cage? I raised 2 dogs, and I fed them enough meat, food, and pure clean water pumped from the well every day. I also allowed them to run and chase unscrupulous on the evergreen lawn surrounded by trees. Could it be said that my 2 big dogs have shared human rights? No, it is just the dog rights at most. Misgovernment makes the people rebel, because the people have to rebel, but the revolt is definitely not goodness. All the actions such as revolt, rebellion, robbery, deprivation, massacre, fighting to overthrow the dictatorship and eradication as such have destroyed the order, and all these actions are not goodness. All the mentality and actions such as launch a vengeful counterattack, scores settlement, awaiting the revenge, malicious attack, wantonly slandering, spreading rumors, stirring up trouble, encouraging hatred, provoking dissension, splitting nation, personal attacks, and fame slandering are not goodness. All the large-scale movements combining culture with politics are not goodness. All those movements such as the May 4th movement, the June 4th, and the Great Cultural Revolution destroyed goodness of human nature and natural mind, in which countless good people were treated unjustly, through which people became more and more cunning, selfish. Actions of destructing the natural environment, regardless of what high-sounding name that bannered, are not goodness because their essence is a prodigal son's behavior, which aims at destructing the homeland and foundation of descendants. All the mentality and actions such as jealousy, hatred, manufacturing fake to reap huge profits, counterfeiting brand name, stealing others' achievements, oppression, exploitation, fraud, extortion, blackmail, theft, murder, arson, abuse, loan sharking, adding insult to injury are not goodness. All the plots invented or created on the battlefield, officialdom, market, casinos, situation related with love aim at entrapping, blowing, weakening, and destroying the others are not goodness. Goodness is a scale to measure of a person's human nature. To find out if a person is goodness or not depends on whether he can keep harmonious relationship with the world around him. Once the disharmony appears, at least one part, and even two or more parties are non-goodness. Goodness can be classified to greater goodness and common goodness. The greater goodness is the property of the greatest creator, gods, and Buddha, and the common goodness is the property of saints, sages, and wise men. The big benevolence seems heartless. The big goodness seems evil. Keeping Satan, predators, and designedly destroying part of the human are conducts of the high goodness, which is difficult to be understood according to the common sense. To maintain the orderliness and harmony of human and nature is just to conduct the low goodness. Human can only preserve the low goodness and should not conspire the high one. Otherwise, human will certainly take the road of demons. If politicians are unkind, it will inevitably lead to the popular discontent. If thinkers are unkind, this is bound to misguide human. If scientists are unkind, they are bound to become the accomplices fighting against human. If religionists are unkind, they are bound to terrify human with terror. If writers are unkind, the noveletish works are bound to pollute the human soul. If artists are unkind, this is bound to make the antics distort humanity. Goodness is also a state. The nice ideal comes from the wish of goodness. I wish everyone has goodness, and everyone has a nice ideal.